You may have heard of the parable of the frog in the water before. You can kill a frog with warm water, but not boiling water, because when you drop a frog into boiling water, it will jump out to save itself. If you, however, put a frog in tepid water and slowly raise the temperature to boiling, it won't notice, and you will indeed kill it. The question I've been pondering lately is, have we become the frog in the water? If so, what's the temperature? A few months ago, we were warned that the most horrific and contagious virus was an imminent threat to the people of the world. Chinese-style lockdowns on our freedoms, something that was in the past mocked as impossible in free and democratic societies, were imposed worldwide. In Australia, where I've been spending my time since the start of this, the lockdown as of the 8th of July has been extended in the Greater Melbourne area for another 6 weeks. Police checkpoints are now in place at access points into the city, and if you're in regional Victoria, like I currently am, you've been told that you cannot enter the lockdown area unless you're doing so for essential work or services. All this because of 29 supposed COVID-19 deaths in the entire state since March, most of them people over 70 years old with pre-existing conditions. Over 1 million Victorians have been tested, approximately 1/6 of the state population. That gives us a death rate in Victoria of approximately 0.00045%, or 0.61% of current cases, or 0.4% of total cases recorded in the state. Australia-wide, we've had 111 deaths out of a population of 26 million. This gives us a death rate of 0.00042%. Far lower than the suicide rate this or any other year, which no doubt has gone up dramatically since March because of the lack of social contact, loss of jobs, and increase in stress and depression caused by this lockdown. Small businesses have been forced to close and either lay off or temporarily halt employment for their workers, and just as many were about to reopen here in Melbourne, they've been forced once again to close. The foundation of our economy halted, while the large corporations that offer food and services are permitted to stay open. Why are we allowing this? What's the end game? As I sit here writing this, I can view the Western Freeway, a major thoroughfare into Melbourne. Traffic is still flowing, trucks speed down the highway into the zone, along with cars and vans filled with commuters and workers heading to their jobs in the city. How are these people any less susceptible to COVID-19 transmission? Why have I been forbidden to drive to the local shop just across the new border that's been created by these draconian restrictions to pick up herbs and teas without getting interrogated by police, while others are seemingly free to move in and out because they're going to jobs in the city? What makes them any different in terms of risk of infection and/or transmission? What about all the logistical transportation of food and supplies? Is everyone who touches these items, including the packets of meat and/or vegetables, somehow COVID resistant? Why are people being encouraged to wear face masks except when they're eating? Does eating or drinking miraculously halt the transmission of this disease? The Premier of this state has recently suggested that social distancing now needs to occur within the home, encouraging family members not to hug or kiss one another. How does Mr. Andrews plan on enforcing this idea? Are police going to start doing random checks in homes to make sure this anti-human behaviour is complied with? Do we have to completely disinfect the bathroom after every use? Will a sneeze or a cough set off a newly installed COVID-19 alarm that will send a biosecurity team to your door for decontamination? Maybe architects and builders should start designing COVID-safe homes replete with plexiglass separators and disinfectant dispensers everywhere. Are we now going into lockdown every time there is a bad flu season? Is that why these terms have become part of the vernacular? Is this one giant precedent-setting exercise? There is a COVID-19 boogeyman around every corner waiting to get you. This is what fear does. When does this end? And what does it say about our society that after a leader implements such draconian controls on our freedoms, that the trending hashtag on Twitter in Australia is I stand with Dan? At what point is the sacrifice on our liberties and freedoms, socialisation and human way of life worth it? In previous videos, I discussed the estimated yearly death toll from influenza, which in Australia ranges from 1,500 to 3,000 a year. Looking at the loss of life from COVID-19 so far, influenza seems a much more dangerous pathogen. Why have we not implemented such restrictions on our society before, since we've been dealing with various strains of the flu for much longer? So far, billions of dollars have been leached out of the economy, not just in Australia but worldwide. This isn't just some ambiguous number, it is in fact going to affect the well-being and livelihoods of millions of Australians. The government is now creating an even bigger social welfare net to make up for the loss of jobs, but this money isn't going to come out of thin air. It's going to come from you, the Australian taxpayer. Why are we being treated like petulant children, blamed and punished for the increase of positive cases, which is no doubt going to occur when testing is exponentially increased? Why did the government buy millions of tests from China with an expiration date of 6 months that laboratories here in Australia are currently unable to utilise and which will send the genetic information of tested Australians back to China? Why did the Premier deny that the Black Lives Matter protest that went on unchecked had nothing to do with an increase in cases when clearly it seems to have been a vector? Why is our Victorian Premier offering lucrative deals to China in regards to our infrastructure over giving Australians jobs, while his involvement with a multi-billion-dollar tunnel construction project has wasted billions of dollars? Why has Dan Andrews decided to dump toxic soil next to a school in the heart of an agricultural community? Is that safe? Is that something that's going to positively impact the health and well-being of Victorians? Why are so many Victorians standing with a man who has openly remarked that the COVID-19 situation and lockdowns and restrictions will remain in place until every Victorian is given a highly experimental vaccine that doesn't exist yet and will likely be rushed out before adequate and thorough testing has occurred? Why have Australians been forbidden to leave the continent unless they get special permission to do so? The government and those praising this draconian step will say it's for your own protection. But how far does that philosophy go? What about personal responsibility? There was a movie made from a Philip K. Dick short story called Minority Report, where the authorities had discovered certain individuals that were able to use a psychic ability called precognition to determine if a criminal act was going to take place in the future. You could be arrested for pre-crime. Isn't that what we're doing now? Albeit with no such psychic powers, just the assumption that you are infected and will spread this virus to everyone and therefore need to be locked down. The whole reasoning behind lockdowns and social distancing and isolation came from an early presupposition that people could transmit COVID-19 while they were asymptomatic, meaning not showing symptoms. But the World Health Organization, a group that is lauded by the very people and governments instituting the lockdowns, has recently admitted that this isn't the case, that it's exceedingly rare to transmit this virus when you're free of symptoms, if not impossible. Why are we still punishing everyone and destroying the economy if this is no longer the case? The government's most important role is to protect your rights. If we believe the scientists, statistics, and so-called experts that have been calling the shots during this pandemic, then it is the elderly, particularly those 70 plus, and those with serious health complications that are at risk. So why restrict everyone? Why not tell these people to stay home? If we are indeed the frog in the water, I have to tell you that from what I see, that water is about to start simmering and will soon come to a boil if people don't start considering these important questions. When freedoms are taken away, they are very rarely given back. One of my favourite quotes of all time is by Benjamin Franklin, and I can't think of one more pertinent to the times we are going through today. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.